Oh,
My mic is off. I'm sorry. I'd like to welcome everyone to, we have an echo. Hello? Hello? I think we're better now. Thank you. All right, I'd like to welcome everyone to this regular scheduled meeting of the Del Norte Local Transportation Commission. I'm going to call this meeting to order. Can I have the roll call, please? No problem.
here.
I'm here.
I am chair. Yes.
I'm here.
I'm here. Thank you. Chris Howard is absent, and Ray Altman is absent as well. Yeah. All right. At this time, let's stand and pledge allegiance to the flag of our great nation. Ready, and I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States, to the republic which stands, one nation, God. All right. At this time, we'll open up public comment. Anyone wishing to make public comments regarding matters either on or off the agenda and within the Commission's jurisdiction may do so at this time. However, the Commission is not permitted to act on non-agendized items. Is there any public comment? Being no public, no comment, we'll bring it back to the Commission. At this time, we'll adjourn to the Policy Advisory Committee. We have a consent agenda here for our policy and administrative functions. Items are considered routine in nature and vote on in one motion. Consider public comments and request to pull matters. Does anyone want to pull any of these items? I'll just read them real quick after, and then after I'll, I guess, ask you guys. We have the minutes from May 6th, 2025. We have the Transportation Development Act claim, and we have a resolution, looks like two resolutions. Resolutions authorizing the Transportation Development Act formula allocations for 2025 through 26 in the form of Resolution 2025-5, allocating funds to the Redwood Coast Transit Authority for operating and capital expenses. Resolution 2025-06, allocating for administrative and planning purposes, and Resolution 2025-07, allocations for pedestrian and bicycle purposes, as well as item D, Service Authority for Freeway Emergencies, SAFE Annual Report, Staff Recommendation. Oh wait, that's the next. Oh, that is. All right. Does
I'll move we approve consent.
You'll move to approve?
Yes.
Okay. I was going to ask if anyone wanted to pull anything, but okay.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Short and a second by Commissioner Borges. Any public comment on the consent agenda? Seeing no comments, we will bring it back to the board for a vote.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Oh, technical difficulties. No, it's okay. Yes. Don't we need her vote for that, or no? I don't remember ever not having her here, so. Okay. But she's not required for the vote. Oh, okay. Oh, okay. For a quorum. Okay.
When my mic was on, we had that. Is that better?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Well, thank you. At this time, we will move on to our policy administrative items. The South Beach Climate Resiliency Plan.
Okay, well, we have, our consultant team is online, and they will need to be panelists and allowed to share their presentations. So while that's getting started, I can introduce the topic. The South Beach Climate Resilience Plan, we started this project about 2 years ago, a little bit more even, more than 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago, writing with my writing and submitting a grant application for funding for the work. So there is climate funding through the state of California right now. We don't know how long that's going to continue, what's happening with that, but we have this project fully funded through a CAP grant, climate grant, and we did the grant and selected this work because we have a problem at South Beach. The harbor raised their hand and said, can we join? And so we called it the South Beach Climate Resilience Plan because all of South Beach includes Anchor Way. So we're just thinking of the whole thing. The strength in moving this project a tiny step forward is that we take a step forward in protecting our local roadways from the average annual daily traffic of US 101 when 101 is closed. Where do all those cars and trucks go? They go through our local neighborhoods. It's one of the reasons why the Elk Valley Rancheria wanted to be a partner also. It's because they need to protect their neighborhoods. And I mean, we all do. All of that traffic will be on Elk Valley Road one way or another, and that's not going to be good. So, so that was, one of the leading reasons why we said, let's do this. Caltrans is the owner and operator of the state highway system. The Crescent City Harbor District is mostly responsible for Anchor Way. I think there may be a tiny portion of that the county somewhere in there owns 10 feet. I don't know. Maybe a tiny portion. I don't know, with the roadway, I just don't know how the county land right there in that tiny little corner is involved. I don't think it's clear to anyone exactly what's happening there. But we've had a significant number of public meetings, public outreach, that's all documented in here. We have conceptual plans, what might happen. We've had, the research is all in this document, and and I can't emphasize enough. People ask me, well, when are we going to do this? And it's like, this is a tiny first step. This is getting the project started. This is our community formally acknowledging that we have a problem that needs to be addressed. Even in the grant application, it says, what is going to be your next step once you do this planning phase? And my answer was, turn it over to the jurisdictions who own the infrastructure. So I'm not saying the Transportation Commission wouldn't be involved going forward, but we don't own the infrastructure. It would be with the leadership of the Crescent City Harbor District or Caltrans that we would be involved in future steps of this. So I think that, I know that all of you have been provided the opportunity to attend the meetings, watch the meetings by video, read all the notes, and We have a brief presentation by our consultant team, GHD, and Kristen is here, coming up somewhere. There she is. Whoops, in and out. So we have our GHD consultant team here to give a brief presentation. Our role here today is to accept the plan. We don't adopt it. We don't, there's nothing, there's no formal step about this plan. It's accepting the plan, acknowledging that the work was done, your questions are answered, allowing us to move forward with the work. Kristen?
Hi there, can you hear me and see my screen? Awesome. Okay, hello everyone. Very excited to be here. My name is Kristen Orth-Cordonier. I'm an environmental planner with GHD, and I'm joined with one of GHD's coastal engineers, Daniel Dedina, who's helped me work on this project. We're here to present the plan. This is going to be a really high overview. I'm going to go through some information pretty quickly, but we're around for some questions if you have any. First, I'd like to say a thank you for the local transportation commission for leading this project. This was a big effort. We were also supported by an amazing advisory committee with staff from the Elk Valley Rancheria, the Crescent City Harbor District, California Department of Fish and Wildlife, Caltrans District 1 and the county, and then the sub-consultants working on this project were both GHD and Green Dot, and as Tamara mentioned, funded by the Caltrans Climate Change Adaptation Planning Grant. So, quick overview of this project. We focused our work between Sand Mine Road to the south and the Anchorway intersection and Anchorway to the north. This is obviously a critical transportation connection corridor, serves recreational, commercial needs, emergency access, evacuation routes. It's experienced storm damage over the years, including the erosion of the beach bluff, which threatens the road, overwash of the road, debris blocking culverts and transportation ways, flooding, and wave overwash also causes damage to infrastructure and other assets. As Tamara mentioned, causes traffic to be rerouted onto roads that were not created to host highway traffic. And it can also impact emergency access by the Sheriff and Harbor Patrol in Anchorway. So ultimately, we set out to develop this resilience plan, developing adaptation strategies for the highway and Anchorway to remain functional in light of sea level rise, increased precipitation, and storm surge, and also to maintain public access to the South Beach area. During this project, we heard from the public about what a resilient transportation system means to them, and this helped guide the project. Generally, their responses included a project that reduces damage, increases safety, maintains traffic and access for emergency vehicles, expands public benefits, and protects coastal habitats. So to develop this project, we went through a resilience planning process, which included identifying and quantifying current and future hazards and how they impact resources, namely roadways, developing ideas for solutions or adaptation strategies, and assessing how realistically we can achieve those, prioritizing those solutions, designing concepts, iterating, and continuing to evaluate feasibility. And through the process, we had detailed discussions with the advisory committee and received community feedback. So really quickly, our vulnerability analysis, we looked at flood extents for the 100-year wave events at 3 sea level rise scenarios, light blue being the lowest sea level, dark blue being the highest sea level. These represented OPC's high sea level rise scenarios for 2050, 2075, and 2100. Essentially, what this showed, potentially not surprising, is greater and greater overtopping flood extents. These extents will persist for extended periods of time and could cause greater amounts of damage over time. So once we understood what these vulnerabilities could look like and what may be affected, we can come up with strategies to address them. So as far as adaptation strategies, we looked at a range of strategies for both Anchorway and Highway 101. For Highway 101, we looked at raising the roadway, raising the road on a bridge or a causeway, protecting the road with a living shoreline or a revetment, and retreating into an area that's not vulnerable to coastal flood hazards. For Anchor Way, we looked at strategies including raising the revetment, raising the roadway, protecting the roadway by both repairing sections that are currently damaged on the groin or extending the groin further seaward. So all of these strategies have trade-offs, and we evaluated them based on a set of criteria that was both developed by the advisory committee and informed by community input. Okay, so our preferred concepts. We developed concepts for Highway 101 and Anchor Way independently. The Highway 101 preferred strategy uses a hybrid approach, combining multiple strategies to address both current and future hazards. This is a cross-section, just kind of typical of this area. On the right side is the ocean, the left side is, inland. So our first recommendation is to prepare for future sea level rise. Highway 101 should be shifted slightly inland within the existing Caltrans right-of-way and elevated to approximately 20 feet, up from the existing elevation. It ranges between 14 and 23. So this elevation specifically is designed to prevent overtopping under projected sea level rise scenarios through 2070. In addition to this, there's an example of the raised road. So in addition to this, we are suggesting a living shoreline. This is a nature-based strategy that would protect the highway while enhancing coastal environment. This includes a vegetated sand berm and a cobble berm that mimic natural resilience of nearby coastlines, help with reducing erosion. This would include planting native plants and would maintain the sandy beach present that's currently there and preserve public access opportunities, which we heard were incredibly important to the community. We're also looking to further reducing flood risk in this southern culvert, replacing that with a bottomless culvert to both improve drainage, reduce overtopping, enhance the natural stream bed, and this would also support ecological health and habitat connectivity. The design also accounts for continued parking along the majority of South Beach and access trails to the beach. So in summary, by elevating the roadway, integrating natural shoreline defenses, we're building a resilient transportation corridor that can withstand changing coastal conditions. The strategy preserves public access, it minimizes community disruption, it balances environmental, regulatory, and financial priorities that were all considered in our evaluation. Okay, Anchor Way, we also are suggesting a hybrid approach here to address both current vulnerabilities and future sea level rise. So again, here's a typical cross section through the middle of Anchor Way. On the right is the ocean, on the left is the harbor. So first, we suggest focusing on protection by repairing the damaged section of the Whaler Island groin to the existing elevation of the areas around it. This helps to shield the Anchor Way breakwater from wave energy, protecting the road. We're also suggesting to raise the existing revetment to about 16 feet and adding a concrete flood wall behind it with a crest elevation of 20 feet. This combined would help protect to the 2070 sea level rise scenario as well. We're also suggesting to raise the road. This would help maintain views, help with circulation. You would be able to see over the new flood wall. In this area, you could also add a new pedestrian pathway between the debris wall and the road, and this improves safety and ensures that fishing and recreation can continue along the revetment. So in summary, this hybrid strategy also strengthens Anchor Way against wave impacts and sea level rise. It enhances pedestrian access, circulation, and recreational opportunities and access to the businesses along Anchor Way. So wrapping up here, based on our evaluation, those were the preferred solutions for the area. However, there are still many more steps and tasks that are needed to further confirm and refine the design elements prior to implementing or constructing any particular project. After more information is collected and analyzed to support the conceptual design process, the project will also need to go through the appropriate environmental design and permitting processes prior to construction. So this could be quite a few years depending on funding opportunities and the complexities of the project. We're also very excited that the Elk Valley Rancheria receives State Coastal Conservancy funding to continue sea level rise planning for this area along South Beach, moving along some of these project elements. And this project will also focus on more public access and habitat restoration opportunities in the area, and will provide more opportunities for public input. So be on the lookout for those opportunities. We'd also like to say, for anybody that's listening, we would recommend continuing to share your experiences on the DOT dashboard. This tool was incredibly helpful for our project. So every time people provide information on the dashboard, it's very useful. So with that, I'll wrap it up. Thank you for letting us present really briefly on the project. And Daniel and I are here if you have any questions.
All right, thank you for that presentation. Does anyone on the commission have any questions?
I just have one kind of curiosity question, I guess. How do you develop the living sand wall? I can't remember what the right term was, along 101. How do you develop that with an active ocean and keep it there?
I'm going to pass this one to Daniel.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Great. Yeah, great question. So, yeah, of course, it's a very, very energetic beach. Gets quite some big waves, and the design kind of utilizes what you see just to the south of the project area. You kind of have these vegetated shelves that extend out towards the beach, and what we're thinking is kind of replicating something like that. The vegetation of those areas helps dissipate wave energy. But in front of that, what you'd need here and what's not shown in the top figure or a photo on this slide is a cobble berm. The cobble there acts as the main kind of stabilization feature of that living shoreline. I think that design will be refined as we move along. So let's see, as that comes in, you can see, yeah. So you have this kind of sandy portion of that cross section there on the bottom, and that cobble berm would be really what protects kind of the main barrier between waves and that sandy area. Yeah. Hope that answers your question.
Yeah, and I assume, so the cobble berm is brought in and placed, and then is sand brought in and placed, or is it just over time it's built up?
Good question. Yeah, so both would need to be brought in and kind of placed and graded and planted with native vegetation. Yeah. And
is this I guess, an ongoing thing until the vegetation takes hold, I guess? Because, I mean, after one winter, we may be starting from scratch again. Kind of what's that process?
Yeah, that's a good question. So it would involve, I think the first couple of years would involve quite some monitoring of the plant recruitment and how that evolves, and then maintenance as needed. Ideally, the design is robust enough to where that vegetated area isn't really touched by waves, and really the main interface with the waves would be that kind of cobble area. But yeah, if there is an event that does kind of impact the vegetated area, then maintenance could be undertaken. So it's an option. It goes back to those trade-offs, right? It's an option that requires more monitoring and potentially more maintenance than a revetment. But it's maybe more likely to be permitted by the Coastal Commission.
Okay. And where does the sand come from?
Good question. Yeah, so that could be an inland quarry. It could be dredge offshore. So that's another kind of thing
Well,
that need to be explored. Go
Yeah,
ahead, Kristen.
more questions that will need to be answered in the future. I think for placement of materials in areas like this, also, like testing needs to be done, and there's a lot more study that needs to go into this. Like Daniel said, that a project of this type would have a pretty robust permitting and monitoring requirements.
Sure.
But we are trying to balance maintaining a similar type of environment as what you can find locally, and that would continue to provide long-term beach access.
Sure. And is it, I mean, I know it's a beach, but is there a thought process gone into for ADA accessibility, or is that kind of not an option here?
One of the things that we did look into, one of our deliverables is a 30% design set, so it's fairly conceptual still, but we were able to incorporate a path in front of the parking area. I guess I can't, hopefully it's ADA compliant. We can look at that. I know that would be pretty exciting, but at least a path to help with circulation and like safe pedestrian access along this area in front of the beach. And we would also want to look at, again, in a future phase, specific access points to the beach so that, we can have various pathways winding through the native plants, so people avoid encroaching on some of those areas, and perhaps look at additional ADA, like beach mats and things in those areas, if that's something the community was interested in.
Great, thank you. That was all I had. That was my one question. Sorry.
All right, Commissioner Short.
If I could, if we put a path in, if there's any kind of an infrastructure path being put in, it will be ADA. It's a federal law. You cannot put a path in without it being an ADA. So the answer to that question is always going to be.
Very good. I was just wondering, what is the thought process of, I think maybe this is a simple answer, but moving Highway 101 away from the beach, is that just to make room for the living shoreline? And also another question I had is, south of the picture that's showing here, right about where the new culvert is going down there to the far right of the picture here, is just about the lowest place that seems to get a lot of wash over when we do have storms right there. I was just kind of curious how far this elevation of 101 would be stretching.
You want to start, Daniel?
Sure. I can take the second part of that question. So that area that basically the entire stretch of orange you see along the highway reflects kind of the raised grade. So from Anchor Way all the way to, I believe, Sand Mine Road would be raised. In that area, right where it says raised highway, new culvert, waves basically go right up that stream tailwater, and as you're referring to, just go over the highway right there. But adjacent to that, you have really densely vegetated kind of platform, and that's kind of similar to what we're proposing. Does a really great job of preventing waves from getting any further. It's just that one discrete culvert that just backs up and allows water to get over. So we looked at that in our modeling, and it seems like raising the roadway to the elevation that we're proposing would mitigate that flooding until about 2070.
Okay.
And the first part, I'll pass to Kristen.
Yeah.
So
Thank you.
yeah, there were a couple, this is like a puzzle pieces. So we have our goal is to stay obviously within the Caltrans right of way. So shifting the road back gives us a couple of opportunities, while also raising the road increases portions of the road prism. So we have to stay within that. Shifting the road back gets it slightly further away from some of these like wave impacts, provides us opportunity to continue to maintain the parking area, potentially add that path that we were talking about, and then also the living shoreline. If we keep the road where it is, the living shoreline would encroach onto more of the beach. So that is partially the reason to shift it back, but partially, even if we just raise the roadway, which we're not suggesting because that doesn't have any protective, like the road can still erode over time if you just raise it without adding any sort of protection strategy. But if we just raise the road, we would also still want to move the road back away from the coastal hazards to the greatest extent feasible. But you also can't, we can't go too far inland because there's also, sensitive habitat, private property. There's the marsh wildlife area as well. So we're kind of constrained within a couple of boundaries on both sides.
Okay, thank you. And I just wanted to say for anybody listening in, I had a community member approach me to talk about this plan, and she was quite upset that the roadway was going to be raised 20 feet. And I just wanted to be very clear that we're raising the road to 20 feet above sea level, not the causeway concept. So this being the preferred solution, I just wanted to make that perfectly clear to everybody that we're not going to be building a very expensive causeway to bypass South Beach. So just wanted to make that clear to everybody.
All right, thank you. I do have a couple of questions. So with this project, would there be a loss of public access at any point, and where would those be if there is a loss of access?
Daniel can correct me, but I would like to say no. Public access was, it was one of the overall goals of this project to maintain public access,
Okay.
which is why ultimately we ended on this strategy and not some of the others, because there was a concern about losing some access ways. Some of the parking may be reconfigured, but as far as accessing South Beach and having multiple points to access South Beach and accessing Anchor Way from South Beach, those would all be maintained.
Excellent, thank you. My next question, I have one more question. I'm sorry. So we are going to be working on the beach, and the Coastal Commission is very protective of the coast, obviously. Is there precedent in the near past of the Coastal Commission approving projects like this? And what are our chances of getting permits?
I'm not going to answer your last question. What are the chances? But I will say the regulatory agencies are generally supportive of the ideas of nature-based solutions, which is something like a living shoreline, because it provides multiple benefits, both social, environmental, and living shorelines have been permitted and implemented in other areas. One of the pictures we showed earlier was a living shoreline in Southern California, and that was also along a highway. So they have been permitted and successfully constructed in California.
Just to add on, we've been in contact with them. We had them review our report and provide feedback so that we could really early in the process engage and make sure that we are kind of meeting their requirements and that this is on their radar. So we'll continue to work with them to that end.
Okay, thank you so much.
So I also want to fill in, sorry, I keep interrupting,
Sure.
but it's important to recognize that this is a tiny first step. There are a lot of steps down the way. There are a lot of permitting agencies, not just coastal. So it's, to focus on only one when, we probably have Water Quality Control Board. There's probably lots of things that I know that there are lots of things going on there. So the answers to the questions that you just asked are mostly going to be addressed during the next steps. This is just a very preliminary first step to get the project acknowledged and the community input acknowledged. We didn't even on the letters, I mean, part of this project is not providing a response to the comments, as an example. We are just gathering public comment, and the next steps will be informed by the public comment in this document. Like, take it away, guys.
Okay. Any further comments from the commission or questions? Thank you so much for your hard work on this project so far. We look forward to seeing this actually built someday, hopefully. So thank you for being here. With that, do we want to accept this?
Need a motion? I'll make a motion to accept this plan.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to accept the South Beach Climate Resiliency Plan. Any public comment on this? Seeing no public comment, we'll bring it back to the commission for a vote.
All in favor?
All in favor? Aye.
Yes, aye.
All right. Unanimous approval. So, excellent.
I didn't hear, Tasha, did you say?
Oh.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was expecting a pulled vote, so aye.
Oh, sorry about
Yeah,
that.
Yeah, on an acceptance, we don't pull in a vote on an acceptance.
Okay. Moving forward, we have our triennial performance audit and response.
So the triennial performance audit is a mandatory process by both the local transit authority and the Transportation Commission. We have started doing this. Joe Ryan and I have started working in unison to do this project. We posted one RFP. We selected a consultant. The consultant's working with both of us to move us through this process. It's been a lot of really good administrative streamlining, and it also gives us an opportunity to work together a little bit on some of the recommendations. So this is a TDA Performance Audit Transportation Development Act, which is primarily, but not only, transit funding. And if somebody were to ask you, well, how do you even know that the Transportation Commission is doing the work it's supposed to? I mean, we submit hundreds and hundreds of documents through a performance audit process. They look at every overall work program. They make sure that all of the work was delivered. They want to take a look at the end products, that you have your agendas and minutes in order, that every piece of paper is signed. I mean, truly hundreds and hundreds of files are uploaded through this process. And so this is a new performance auditor for us. It was a very different process from what we've had for the past decade, say. And so it's different. It was not any less or more challenging. It's really not much different at the end of the day, but the process itself and the way people and agencies work are different. So this is our first audit with Moore & Associates, and they've been fine to work with. And there are always little things along the way. I mean, I hope Matt's not listening, but I mean, Matt forgot to submit a document once in 10 years. I don't think that he needs special monitoring. I mean, it's like we are all people here, and we submit hundreds of things throughout a year. And I probably should have noticed that he did. I don't know how I would notice, but in all the course of daily whatever, it's on his list to do. And believe me, he won't do that again because he's like, oh, gosh. But it's, I mean, we all have things that, oh, yeah, I couldn't find the email receipt for my last performance audit submission. Now, I know it's submitted because if you don't submit it, they come after you. They didn't come after us. But so, in the hundreds and hundreds of documents that we submitted, there are always going to be, really, we've never had a performance audit where there was just absolutely everything was perfect for the past 3 years in the organization. So it's, you have the audit there. The summary is pretty much a summary. my response to comments, I wanted to put right on top so you guys don't have to go back and dig through for it in the agenda. And what happens next is pretty much nothing for 3 years. We'll take a look at the recommendations. The next performance audit, we'll take a look and see if we followed through with the recommendations or not. Sometimes we don't. I mean, sometimes the answer is no. You know, we had an audit recommendation maybe 6 years ago that wanted us to have an independent audit of the CTSA Consolidated Transportation Services, the CTSA, I have to think about that. It's the social services, it's dial-a-ride. Let me simplify. It's our dial-a-ride. And it would cost us more money or as much money to audit dial-a-ride as dial-a-ride receives as the independent. It's like, wait a minute, we're going to spend $24,000 to audit $26,000 or what, you know, it's like, it doesn't make any financial sense. And it's all gets combined with the Road Coast Transit Authority audit. So, and this auditor said, oh yeah, you're fine here. You're right, that doesn't make sense for the taxpayer dollar to have a completely separate audit for the CTSA for Del Norte County because it's dial-a-ride for a comparatively small community. So in the Bay Area, they have whole separate large organizations that provide paratransit services, that provide, you know, special services for people with disabilities, whatever. And they have their own, they get more than $28,000 a year. And they, you know, and we move it forward. So that's an example of, we don't actually, it's an audit recommendation isn't always a mandate. And that sometimes they ask for things that we have a conversation about, you and I, but just because it's in an audit doesn't mean we have to say yes. And so I just, you know, we have to use our own good judgment. At the end of the day, I'm responsible for doing the work. It's important for you to understand, you know, what I'm doing here. And you can go back and say, no, Tamara, we want you to audit that. You know, it says do it. Right, we can do that. But you do have choices. You have the choices. I actually don't have the choices. I choose to do what you require me to do. But in some cases, and not all cases, and you know, in many of the cases here, it's like, oh yeah, that piece of paper. So there was nothing here that was of any significant concern for me. You know, on a side note, I've taken a look at the draft of the RCTA audit. It's very similar to this. Isn't anything of a concern to me. The one thing about, you know, the late reporting of the financial audit for Road Coast Transit Authority, I don't know what's going on there, but Joe and I are going to sit down and talk about it. And I think that sometimes what happens, and it sounds like this might be the case for what happens, is the auditors are doing so much work, and then you have tiny little Road Coast Transit, and if something gets squished, they get squished. So maybe setting up a schedule where they start earlier, we start the whole process before everybody else, so we're not squished at the end. I'm really not sure, but we'll figure it out.
All right. Do we have any questions or comments for the triennial report?
Nope. I will make a motion to approve and accept triennial performance audit and response to audit.
We can actually accept it by consensus. So do we have consensus?
Yep.
Yes.
It looks like we have consensus. Moving on to in our agenda, we don't have any discussion items. Moving on to policy. Sorry, what?
I actually do.
Oh, you have.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
the policy advisory. Oh, no, you're right. I'm sorry. I just,
Nothing is
I did,
listed,
I made a
but-
funky thing in the agenda.
Sorry to surprise you on that.
Yeah.
I just for
Oh.
information on or for the members of the commission, I might be taking Tasha's thunder here too, but
No, because,
back on.
let me just step up so we're all clear. Right now, we are still the policy advisory committee.
Yes,
So you are all policy advisory committee too right now. So this is Commissioner Policy Advisory Committee, everybody together reports.
Okay.
yeah. Back on May 16th, I attended a last chance grade stakeholder meeting down in Oregon, Oric with Valerie Starkey. And we learned that we're going to be moving on to the design phase, and we need to communicate to the California Transportation Commission, who is meeting on June 26th and 27th, our position that we would like them to fund that design phase in this first round of funding. So I just am encouraging my colleagues here on this board to call in and make a public comment. It's a pain in the neck. I mean, their meetings are 2 days long. You got to kind of pay attention to the agenda and listen in for a long time, and then you get 1 minute. You get 60 seconds, and at the end of 60 seconds, they cut off your mic. So practice what you're going to say, and be ready to say your 1 minute of give them your pitch for that 1 minute. But I think it's valuable. Also, we are, as the Transportation Commission, submitting a letter. Thank you, Tamara, for typing up this letter that is in front of us. The Board of Supervisors is going to be taking up a support letter as well. So the Caltrans District 1 folks will be taking this pile of letters down to the Transportation Commission and presenting that to them also to show our solidarity behind the support for this project. So that's all I had, was just that bit of information for the commission. I think Tamara wanted to say something about support letters as well.
So I understand that the city council and county supervisors the staff request permission every time they write a letter of support. That has never been the policy for the Transportation Commission. We have a regional transportation plan, and the projects in the regional transportation plan, the plan is adopted by resolution. Those projects are already supported by the commission by being in the regional transportation plan. What that does is allows me to be responsive. So if somebody's coming, an local agency, a local tribe is coming to me and says, can you write a letter of support for us for this project? If it's in the regional transportation plan, then I already have the authority to do that. And certainly last chance grade, I would be dismayed if I couldn't support last chance grade without waiting for a public meeting, having a public meeting, and then you telling me, of course you support last chance grade. It's been, a high priority project in our region for decades. So that's just, Darren asked me last night, and I just was like, wait, let me think about this, because we don't need to put it on the agenda for me to write a letter of support. Now, if I were to write a letter of support for the chair to sign, that's something different. That would be something, because signing it as the chair, it's not me going on my authority, it's you taking over authority for something. So if the chair needs to sign something, then it does need to be on an agenda. But if it's a letter of support for a project in the regional transportation plan, we can go forward with it. If it is going to use a significant amount of my staff time, it would need to be in the overall work program, or I would need to ask permission. And if we're contributing funding for it, then of course we would have permission to do that. But this is a letter of support.
Thank you, Tamara.
Very good. Thank you.
And I'm
Anyone-
sorry, Tasha, if I stole your thunder.
Anyone else have any discussion items? No? All right. Well, we'll move on in our agenda to the Policy Advisory Committee. Well, that was the comments. At this time, we will adjourn as the Policy Advisory Committee, reconvene as the Del Norte Transportation Commission, and by poll vote, approve and adopt the actions taken.
I'll move we,
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, I'll move we approve the actions taken.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Any public comment? Seeing no public, no comment, we'll bring it back to the commission for a vote.
Commissioner Short,
Yes.
Commissioner Borges,
Yes.
Commissioner Dooley,
Yes.
Chair Greeno.
Yes. All right, thank you. Anything else for the good of the order? All right, we will adjourn as the Del Norte Local Transportation Commission until our next regularly scheduled meeting on Tuesday, July 1st, 2025 at 3 p.m. Thank you.